The chainsaw roared before she said a single word. 3 seconds later, my wife was screaming, blood pouring down her leg, and the woman who called herself the law finally realized she'd just crossed one. If you think HOA rules can't destroy lives, you're about to learn how a clipboard and a little power almost killed my family. My name's Eli Mercer. I'm Chief of Emergency Surgery at St. Augustine Medical. I've rebuilt people's bodies after explosions, car wrecks, and wars. But nothing prepares you for watching your own wife bleed out in your front yard because someone wanted your flower bed to match the neighborhood catalog. We moved to Maple Ridge for peace, clean sidewalks, polite neighbors, the illusion of order. My wife Clara was 7 months pregnant. She loved that yard more than anything, spent mornings humming while planting lilies, said they were lucky after our first miscarriage. I didn't question her rituals. They were hope in dirt form. Then came Janet Pike, president of the Maple Ridge HOA. Platinum hair, pearl earrings, clipboard always tucked under her arm like it gave her divine authority. The first time she came by, she smiled tight and said, "Your flower bed's too tall." Dr. Mercer. Section 7. Uniformity of design. I told her the bed was on our property line, perfectly legal. She nodded, made a note on her clipboard, and said, "We'll see about that." The next morning I learned what we meant. I heard it before I saw it, the chainsaw. That deep mechanical snarl that makes your skin crawl. Janet stood in my driveway, visor down, revving it like she was about to execute someone. Clara was barefoot, shouting for her to stop clutching her belly. Janet just yelled back, "Unauthorized structure removal order." Then she swung. I ran halfway down the driveway before the blade hit wood. Splinters flew, lilies shredded, and then fabric tore. The sound that followed didn't even sound human. Clara collapsed, her dress already blooming red. I dropped beside her, tore off my belt, pressed it to her leg. "Stay with me, love," I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. Janet froze, the saw dangling in her hands. "Oh my God, I didn't mean she moved," she stammered, face white. "It was supposed to be a safety removal." "Safety," I snapped. "You nearly killed her." She tried to hold her clipboard like a shield. "You people think you're above the rules because you're doctors. This community has standards." I looked up, fury boiling cold. "You're standing on private property, Janet. The HOA boundary ends at that stone line." I measured it myself. Her eyes dropped. She saw it, the border stone she'd stepped over. For the first time, she looked small. Sirens echoed down the street. Neighbors gathered with phones filming. I didn't care. I just kept pressure on the wound, whispering, "You'll be okay, both of you." That flower bed had been Clara's proof of survival, her way to keep hope alive after years of loss. Now it was soaked in her blood. In the ambulance, the medic looked panicked, recognizing me. "Dr. Mercer, sir." "Don't call me sir." "Start a wide-bore IV, push fluids, keep her conscious," I ordered. He hesitated. "Sir, I didn't realize." "I'm the Chief of Emergency Surgery," I snapped. "Now move." I pressed harder, counting seconds, watching the pulse fade under my fingers. "She's got a poplite heel tear," I said. "If we miss the window, she loses the leg." 2 minutes later, we hit the hospital bay. My team was waiting. "Pregnant trauma victim," I barked, "left leg laceration, major blood loss." They wheeled her in. I stripped off my gloves, trembling for the first time all day. They told me I couldn't operate. I said, "Then find someone who can do it faster." Hours later, my daughter was born. Alive. Crying. But Clara, she'd lost her lower leg. When I finally walked into recovery, she was pale but awake, her hand resting on the incubator beside her bed. "Is she okay?" she whispered. "She's perfect," I said. "And me. You fought harder than anyone I've ever known." Then she asked, "Why did she do it, Eli?" What did we ever do to her? I didn't answer. I didn't know. That night, a detective named Mara Quinn showed up. Sharp eyes, no patience for politics. "We got your ambulance footage," she said. "It's a clear case of recklessness, maybe even criminal negligence. But Janet Pike's claiming your wife interfered with official removal." "Self-defense," I asked, disgusted. "More like procedural miscommunication," she said dryly. "Problem is, her lawyers are already spinning it as an accident. We'll need proof she acted intentionally." I remembered her words from the video, "Get this on video. The board needs proof we acted." That wasn't safety. That was ego. Mara nodded. "Find me a pattern of forgery, anything. Otherwise, it's her word against yours." That night I almost gave up. I sat in the hospital corridor staring at the sterile floor, wondering if I should just walk away. Clara had survived, our baby was alive, wasn't that enough? Maybe I was just making it worse by pushing back. Maybe I was the problem. Then I looked through the glass at Clara holding our daughter. Her smile, fragile but defiant, hit me like electricity. I realized giving up wasn't mercy. It was surrender. And I'd already promised her once I don't lose patience. The next morning I went to see Ryan Holt, the HOA vice president. His face said everything: guilt, fear, exhaustion. "She forged it, didn't she?" I asked. He nodded, voice barely a whisper. "The maintenance order. She drafted it herself. I signed it because she said it was verified by the county. I just wanted to keep the peace." "You signed the paper that cost my wife her leg," I said quietly. He looked like he might throw up. "You don't understand. She scares people. She has files, fake citations, permits, letters, everything. It's all on a private drive at the clubhouse." "Then you'll help me get it," I said. "If she finds out—" "She already blamed you," I interrupted. "Her report lists you as the authorizing officer." His eyes went wide. "What? You want to save yourself, Ryan? Then act like it." We spent hours digging through the HOA system until we found it metadata showing Janet created the order 2 days before the accident. I copied the files to an encrypted drive and handed them to Detective Quinn. She listened, expression unreadable. "Forgery, coercion, falsification. That's intent." "Then charge her," I said. By noon, the cops were outside the Maple Ridge HOA office. I went with Quinn. Janet was already there, perfect hair, crisp blazer, fake smile. "Detective," she said coolly, "this intrusion has no basis." Quinn held up the warrant. "We're here for your records, Ms. Pike." When the officers powered on her computer, the screen filled with folders, fake permits, resident fines, fabricated letters. One file stood out: Mercer property removal, final. Inside was a draft statement reading, "In the event of injury, responsibility lies with resident interference." Notes in red text: rephrase to sound neutral. Omit reference to SAW. Janet lunged forward. "You can't take that out of context." Quinn didn't blink. "You just gave us motive and cover-up in the same document." Janet snapped, her voice breaking. "You don't understand. He mocked me. He thought the rules didn't matter. I had to make an example." Quinn just said, "Thank you for your confession." The neighbors outside had gathered, phones raised, recording the once feared president in handcuffs. For the first time, she didn't look powerful. She looked ordinary. The trial hit national headlines within days. "Chainsaw Karen," they called her. "HOA president faces felony charges." I didn't watch the news, I lived it. In court, she sat stone-faced beside her attorney. When I took the stand, the oath felt heavier than any scalpel I'd ever held. "Describe what you saw," the prosecutor said. "I saw Janet Pike cross my property line, declare a removal order, and start a running chainsaw 5 feet from my pregnant wife. She didn't stop until blood hit the ground." The courtroom went still. Ryan Holt testified next, trembling but honest. "She told me to forge the permit," he said. "She said the inspector had given verbal approval. She used fear to control us." Then came the recording, her voice echoing through the speakers. "Get this on video. The board needs proof we acted." When the verdict came, it was silent. No cheers, no gasps, just the sound of justice settling like a final incision. On all charges, the judge read aggravated assault with a deadly tool forgery, obstruction of justice, guilty. Janet turned to her lawyer, whispering, "Appeal it," but her voice cracked mid-word. 11 years, no parole. I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumphant. Just still. Like after a long surgery when the bleeding finally stops and you realize the patient might live. When I walked out of that courthouse, reporters shouted questions. "Dr. Mercer, what would you say to HOA presidents across the country?" I stopped at the top of the stairs. "I'd say power without accountability isn't order," I said. "It's chaos dressed in paperwork. And if you use that power to hurt people, you'd better pray the law gets to you before someone like me does." That's where I ended it. No applause, no forgiveness, just the truth. And if there's one thing I learned through all this, it's that authority means nothing without humanity. Because when rules replace decency, it's not order you're enforcing, it's cruelty.